If the value of a family heirloom is built on loyalty and legacy, what happens to its worth when betrayal turns it into a spectacle for strangers to bid on? No one in the Blackwell circle slept the night the scandal broke. It started with a single image, a photo uploaded by an anonymous account, the kind of digital bomb that detonates and leaves reputations in ashes. There she was, a young woman, hair still tousled from the night, sitting on the edge of a designer bed in a historic white nightgown. She looked careless, almost bored, legs crossed, one hand tracing the delicate lace at her thigh. That alone might have gone unnoticed in the sea of daily social media flexing. But this nightgown was different. Anyone who mattered in New York society recognized it instantly. The White Lily, it was called, a silk heirloom, hand-embroidered, passed down through the Blackwell family for 3 generations. The kind of piece that belonged in a museum, never in a stranger's Instagram story. But there it was, unmistakable, worn by someone who was not Miranda Blackwell, the wife. The post's caption was vicious. Guess the Blackwell wife shares more than just her house, shared property. Within minutes, the photo ricocheted across group chats, private DMs, then burst out onto public feeds. By midnight, shared property was trending nationwide. By sunrise, it was all over cable news, with talking heads gleefully speculating about the fall of the Blackwell marriage. Every tabloid and gossip site picked it up. The city's most exclusive WhatsApp groups buzzed with theories, screenshots, and memes. Miranda's name was dragged through a digital mudslide, and she hadn't even seen the post yet. What made the humiliation unbearable wasn't just the photo. It was the speed, the hunger with which the world devoured it. The nightgown, for so long a private symbol of love and tradition, was now the punchline of every cruel joke. Miranda's phone exploded with messages, some full of pity, others just hungry for details. "Are you okay? Did you see what she posted? Is it true?" Some so-called friends didn't even bother pretending to care. They just wanted the inside scoop. But the worst was yet to come. Less than 24 hours after the post, the unthinkable happened. A high-profile auction house announced they were selling the exact same nightgown, the Blackwell heirloom, as seen in the viral post. The official listing title was savage. Shared property, the Blackwell family nightgown, worn by both wife and mistress. They didn't even pretend it was just a garment. They called it what it had become, a spectacle, a piece of living drama. And to twist the knife, the auction was public. Anyone could bid. The starting price was set at $50,000, but everyone knew it would soar. Within hours, news vans camped outside the Blackwell mansion. Paparazzi jostled for position on the sidewalk, eager for a shot of Miranda, her grief, her rage, her humiliation. Adam Blackwell, once the city's golden boy, was nowhere to be found. The mistress, meanwhile, basked in her 15 minutes of fame, posting cryptic updates about owning your power and claiming your pleasure. Social media commentators, most of them strangers to real pain, laughed and joked and picked apart every detail, like vultures around a fresh kill. But to truly understand why this photo hit like a bomb, you have to know what the White Lily meant to the Blackwells. It wasn't just silk and lace, it was family history, a legacy Miranda's mother had saved for her wedding night, a piece that had survived war, immigration, the collapse of old fortunes, and the rebuilding of new ones. Every family gathering, every major life event, Miranda wore it as a silent tribute to the women who came before her. To see it used as a prop in a mistress's social media stunt, that was like watching someone spray paint graffiti on a gravestone. Inside the Blackwell mansion, chaos reigned. Staff whispered behind closed doors, desperate not to be seen, terrified their jobs would vanish with the family's reputation. Miranda's mother called, her voice trembling, "Don't do anything rash. Please, Miranda, just wait it out." Miranda's lawyer called, so did her therapist, her old friends from Brooklyn, and a cousin she hadn't spoken to in years. All the while, Miranda sat in her bedroom, phone clutched in her hand, eyes swollen from crying, unable to do anything but scroll and scroll and scroll, watching her life unravel, one comment at a time. Meanwhile, the world outside watched with gleeful cruelty. The auction livestream was scheduled for 7 p.m. sharp. Prime time for the city's elite to tune in and place their bets. There were already thousands of pre-registrations, most from the kind of people who would never dare show their faces in public. They just wanted a piece of the spectacle. They wanted to own a slice of the Blackwell family's shame. Miranda's husband, Adam, was silent. He sent one text: "Stay off your phone, it'll blow over." Easy for him to say. He wasn't the one being picked apart by strangers, wasn't the one whose identity was reduced to a hashtag. And as for the mistress, she only doubled down, retweeting memes about sharing is caring and posting selfies from the salon, her lips pursed in a cruel smile. Miranda's mind raced with 1,000 questions. Who had planned this? How long had it been going on? Was Adam involved? Did he know? Did he care? Every answer seemed to cut deeper than the last. By the time the sun set, the nightgown, the white lily, had become more than a garment. It was a symbol of everything Miranda had lost: trust, privacy, dignity, peace. But as the first bids rolled in and the media trucks beamed their stories across the world, something inside Miranda hardened. For so long, she'd played the part of the perfect wife. She'd kept quiet, kept dignified, played by rules written by men who thought dignity was a woman's only armor. But tonight, staring at her own reflection in the bathroom mirror, Miranda made a vow. If the world wanted a scandal, she'd give them one, but it would end on her terms, not theirs. This is not a story about a woman destroyed. It's the story of what happens when the world tries to sell your pain and you decide to buy back your own power, no matter what it costs. Miranda Blackwell was 36 years old, but tonight she felt both ancient and heartbreakingly young. The world outside saw her as a fixture of New York high society, always elegant, always calm, the classic banker's wife. They had no idea what it cost her to wear that mask. As the chaos raged online and the world laughed at her pain, Miranda sat motionless in the dark of her bedroom, clutching the old family quilt like a lifeline. It was almost midnight, but she didn't dare sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that viral photo, her nightgown, her sanctuary on another woman's body, paraded for likes and retweets. Born Miranda Soto in a 2-bedroom Brooklyn apartment, she'd never fit the mold of the privileged elite. Her father, an immigrant janitor, died when she was 10, leaving her mother to work double shifts as a home health aide. Miranda learned early that the world didn't hand out mercy to girls like her. She hustled for scholarships, stayed up late studying, ignored boys and parties and anything that could distract her from her one goal: escape. Art became her refuge, the only place she could breathe. She won a full ride to Columbia University, and for a brief window, she felt powerful. She was talented. She had promise. But promise isn't enough when the bills are due. In her junior year, her mother fell ill, and Miranda took on every job she could: barista, babysitter, museum tour guide. That was when she met Adam Blackwell. He was dazzling, 10 years older, charming, magnetic, a man who made her feel seen. Their first real date was at a tiny Greek diner. He listened, asked questions, even remembered her favorite color. For a girl used to feeling invisible, Adam's attention was intoxicating. He seemed to offer the one thing Miranda never had: security. They married fast, to everyone's surprise. Adam insisted on a massive wedding at the Blackwell estate. Miranda wore the white lily for the first time, her mother's hands trembling as she buttoned up the back. "This nightgown is your shield," her mother whispered, "and your crown. Never let anyone make you feel small." At the time, Miranda believed her mother. She thought love would protect her. She thought Adam would too. But love in the world of the rich is a slippery thing. It started subtly: the little slights, the jokes at her expense, the way Adam steered her away from her friends and her art. "Why do you want to work?" he'd tease. "Isn't this enough?" He'd gesture at the sprawling house, the staff, the endless parties. For a while, Miranda tried to push back. She kept painting in the mornings, snuck away to galleries, kept up with her old college friends. But the pressure to fit in wore her down. Adam's world moved fast, and there was always someone watching, someone judging. Bit by bit, she set aside her brushes, then her friends, then her job at the art museum. She became Mrs. Adam Blackwell, a role she performed with desperate, silent perfection. She was supposed to be grateful. Everyone told her so. "You're so lucky," women would whisper at galas, eyeing her ring, her gowns, her flawless smile. "You have it all." What they didn't see were the long nights waiting alone in the master bedroom, the whispered phone calls Adam took on the balcony, the new passwords on his devices, the scent of perfume she never wore clinging to his suits. Miranda learned to swallow her suspicions. When she tried to talk to him, he'd laugh it off, say she was paranoid, hormonal, bored. "Go buy yourself something nice," he'd say, tossing his credit card onto the bed. She never wanted things. She wanted to be loved. And then there was the white lily, the nightgown. More than any diamond, more than any handbag or vacation, it was her anchor. Her mother had given it to her the day she left for college, pressed it into her hands and said, "Never forget where you came from." Miranda wore it on nights when she couldn't sleep, when Adam was out working late, when she needed to feel connected to the life she once knew. It was a symbol of her resilience, her history, her right to take up space. No one, she thought, could take that from her. Now, as the city mocked her and strangers fought to own her shame, Miranda felt utterly powerless. Her mother's voice, once her guide, was silent. Her phone was a weapon. Each message, each notification, another wound. She scrolled through the auction site, watching the price for the nightgown climb higher, feeling smaller with every bid. She wondered if her mother would still be proud of her, or if she would see her as the world now did. A fool, a joke, a woman whose most precious belonging was now just shared property. She tried to remember when exactly the joy left her marriage. Maybe it was the first Christmas when Adam canceled at the last minute to fly to London for business. Maybe it was the night of her first miscarriage, when he came home hours later, smelling of whiskey and a stranger's perfume. Maybe it was when she realized she didn't even recognize herself in the mirror. Her hair, always perfectly blown out, her eyes empty, her laughter hollow. Each time she tried to reclaim a little piece of herself, the world pushed back harder. The role of perfect wife was all-consuming, and now, even that had been ripped away. Tonight, Miranda felt the full weight of her loneliness. There were no friends to call, no family she trusted to understand, no safe place to hide. The world wanted a victim, a scapegoat, a meme. But deep inside, a stubborn ember glowed. She wasn't ready to let them win. She wasn't ready to become the tragic footnote in someone else's story. Somewhere in the darkness, her phone buzzed. A text from her old boss, Chris. "If you need help, just say the word." Miranda closed her eyes, let herself imagine a different life. One where she was more than a trophy, more than a wife, more than a scandal. The world had made a spectacle of her shame. They'd turned her pain into entertainment. But Miranda was done playing the victim. The next move would be hers. If you stood in front of the Blackwell estate on that fateful morning, you would think you were gazing at the very definition of old money. The house itself was a testament to 3 generations of wealth, an imposing structure of stone, glass, and elegant, symmetrical gardens that looked like something out of a movie set. To the outside world, it was a palace, a fortress built for royalty, marble floors, priceless artwork, and ceilings that seemed to stretch up into heaven itself. Yet inside, the beauty was paper-thin, a perfect stage for the messiest drama of Miranda Blackwell's life. The day after the scandal broke, the estate was alive in the worst possible way. The staff, once so discreet, so invisible, could barely contain their curiosity. Housekeepers huddled in the laundry room, whispering about the nightgown and the mistress. Gardeners exchanged glances, pretending to prune while stealing glimpses at every tinted car window that passed. Even the chef, a man who had worked for European nobility, checked the headlines before preparing Miranda's breakfast, not sure if the lady of the house would even eat. The entire property felt like it was on edge, holding its breath, bracing for something explosive. For Miranda, every room held ghosts, memories of dinner parties, anniversaries, moments of laughter that now felt so far away. The once peaceful halls seemed to echo with the cruel laughter of strangers. This was supposed to be the week of Adam Blackwell's charity gala, an event that drew in the richest, most powerful figures from New York to LA. Politicians, CEOs, celebrities, and trust fund heirs all angled for an invite. For months, Miranda had managed the details: floral arrangements, seating charts, the charity auction items, and the guest list. She'd put her soul into making it perfect. But now the event had a new energy. Every guest was waiting to see the aftermath of the nightgown scandal. They didn't come for charity. They came for blood. The day before the gala, the Blackwell ballroom glistened with preparations. Dozens of staff bustled, stringing fairy lights, draping velvet over the grand staircase, polishing every inch of marble and gold. A team of event planners double-checked every detail, terrified of Miranda's reputation for perfection. Yet even among the luxury, tension crackled in the air. No one said it out loud, but everyone was thinking the same thing. Would Miranda show her face? Would Adam stand beside her? Would the mistress dare to appear? By the afternoon, media trucks lined the edge of the estate, their satellite dishes aimed at the mansion like weapons. Reporters in designer coats rehearsed lines for the evening news, eyes hungry for the first glimpse of the broken wife or the smirking husband. Drones buzzed overhead, snapping forbidden shots of the garden and windows. Social media swarmed with rumors. Someone claimed to have seen Miranda's car leave in the night. Another insisted Adam was in hiding at a hotel. All of them waited, desperate for any scrap of drama. Inside, Miranda roamed the halls in a daze. She could barely recognize her own home. Every corner held reminders of a life she used to have. In the grand library, she remembered the first time Adam kissed her among the shelves. In the music room, she saw the ghost of herself laughing with her old friends. In the kitchen, she recalled late-night snacks shared in pajamas. Once, the nightgown had felt magical, almost invincible. Now, the walls themselves seemed to close in, pressing the humiliation deeper. She tried to escape the stairs, but there was nowhere to hide. Even the staff, loyal as they were, could not hide their pity. She heard footsteps pause outside her door, hushed voices, the soft click of a phone camera. Miranda realized she was no longer the lady of the house. She was a curiosity, a sideshow. On the morning of the gala, she woke to a house buzzing with activity. Trays of champagne arrived, fresh orchids were flown in from Hawaii, and musicians rehearsed in the conservatory. Her wardrobe was laid out by the closet attendant, gowns in deep emerald and sapphire, perfect shoes, jewelry fit for a queen. But no matter what she wore, she knew she'd be walking into a cage. She stood in front of her bedroom mirror, searching her own eyes for a trace of the woman she used to be. She tried on 3 dresses before choosing a classic black gown, the same color as her mood. Her hair was styled in soft waves, her makeup flawless. If the world wanted a show, she would give them a perfect mask. The ballroom that evening was a hurricane of luxury and judgment. Gold chandeliers glowed overhead. The city's elite paraded in, their laughter sharp, their curiosity sharper. Some guests avoided Miranda's gaze entirely, pretending nothing had happened. Others approached with forced smiles and empty words. "You look stunning, darling. So good to see you. What a beautiful night for a gala." Each compliment felt like a slap. But the cruelest stares came from the corners, where the young women whispered and pointed, their phones hidden but always ready. Miranda overheard one of them, barely 20, snickering, "Is that the famous Nightgown wife? Do you think the mistress will be here?" Another replied, eyes gleaming, "No way, unless she's brave, or just looking for more followers." Their laughter stabbed deeper than any headline. The cruelty was everywhere, disguised as politeness, hidden behind couture. The auction display, placed near the entrance for all to see, showed a picture of the infamous nightgown. Beneath it, a glass case was left empty, with a single card. "Coming soon, the Blackwell White Lily, bidding open at 7 p.m. Every guest took a photo. Some laughed, some looked away, embarrassed by the spectacle but unable to turn from it. And yet, through it all, Miranda walked with her head high. She remembered her mother's words, "Never let them make you feel small." Her hands shook, but she smiled and greeted the guests. She raised her glass at the right moments, posed for the photographers, accepted the sympathy of people who had never really cared. If she was going to drown in this sea of luxury and cruelty, she'd do it on her own terms. But deep down, she vowed, the Blackwell estate might look like a palace, but tonight it would become her battleground. She was done hiding, done pretending. If the world wanted a show, she would give them something to remember. If there was a single person in New York who relished the chaos of the Blackwell scandal, it was Sabrina Hale. For most of her 28 years, Sabrina had survived by turning every setback into a stepping stone, and every enemy into a rung on her climb. She knew how to play the victim when it suited her, and how to strike with deadly precision when the moment called for it. In the world of money, legacy, and luxury, Sabrina had no inheritance, no famous last name, and certainly no family heirlooms waiting for her in a cedar chest. But she had something even more dangerous: ambition sharpened by desperation. Sabrina had started at Blackwell Global as just another pretty face in the HR department, a girl from nowhere with a half-finished community college degree, a closet full of fast fashion, and dreams bigger than her rent-controlled walk-up in Queens. She'd studied the world of the wealthy with a mix of hunger and contempt. Watching from the sidelines at company galas and holiday parties, she took note of every powerful man, every bored wife, every secret exchanged over champagne. She wasn't jealous. She was plotting. The moment she met Adam Blackwell, she saw opportunity, wrapped in an expensive suit masked by boyish confidence. Adam was different from other executives. He liked to flirt, liked to feel adored, and above all, liked a little danger. Sabrina understood men like Adam. She knew how to linger just long enough near his office door, how to laugh at his jokes, how to play both innocent and worldly. It didn't take long for him to notice her, and it took even less time for him to slip, for the first time, and ask her to help with a late-night business dinner. That was all the invitation Sabrina needed. She was careful. She let Adam make the first moves. She played hard to get, then softened, dropping hints about her struggles, her loneliness, her admiration for his success. She let him think he was the hunter while she pulled the strings. The affair, when it started, was almost laughably cliché: stolen kisses in hotel elevators, secret dinners in private rooms, passionate texts on encrypted apps. But Sabrina wanted more than just Adam's attention. She wanted his world. She wanted what Miranda had. And Miranda, to Sabrina, was everything she hated about wealthy women: polished, educated, born with the right face and the right background. Even her sadness looked expensive. Sabrina watched Miranda at every gala, every board meeting, every charity event. Perfect posture, perfect smile, perfect little speeches. It made Sabrina sick. Why should Miranda have it all just because she was born lucky or married well? Sabrina was done waiting her turn. The white lily nightgown was never meant to be a weapon. At first, it was just a curiosity. One night, after Adam and Sabrina's affair had moved from hotels to the master suite itself, she wandered into the main closet. There, folded with almost reverence, was the famous nightgown. Adam mentioned it offhand, laughing. "My wife thinks it's sacred or something. It's just old fabric." Sabrina felt a flash of envy and fury. Sacred? Only for Miranda? Sabrina, with Adam's permission, slipped it on. The silk felt strange but powerful. She wore it around the suite, posed in front of the gilded mirror. Her body reflected 1,000 ways in the glass. For once, she looked like she belonged. That was when the idea struck, a bold, ruthless idea. Why not make the world see what Miranda really was? Why not expose the hypocrisy, the weakness, the illusion of ownership? Sabrina snapped a photo. At first, it was for herself, a private trophy. But as the tension at work grew, as the rumors about Adam and Miranda's marriage reached a fever pitch, Sabrina realized she could do more than just win. She could humiliate. She could erase Miranda's power in one viral moment. She waited for the right day. Adam was away on business, Miranda was distracted with gala planning, and the house was empty except for a few disinterested staff. Sabrina posted the photo from a burner account, attached the now infamous caption, "Guess the Blackwell wife shares more than just her house," and hit upload. The reaction was instant. DMs from gossip writers, requests for interviews, and, most thrilling of all, dozens of comments attacking Miranda. Poor little rich girl, can't keep her man. Guess money can't buy loyalty. Sabrina watched with satisfaction as the likes, shares, and cruel jokes piled up. She told herself it was justice, that Miranda deserved to be knocked off her pedestal. But Sabrina wasn't finished. When the high-end auction house reached out, offering to list the nightgown as shared property, she saw her ultimate chance. She didn't care about the money. She wanted the spectacle. The press, the cameras, the historic garment reduced to a viral joke and a public bidding war. Sabrina gave them everything they wanted: background details, a copy of the original photo, even a few hints about her romance with Adam. She was careful not to reveal her face or name. The world she knew would fill in the blanks. And the more attention she got, the more reckless she became. Sabrina started posting cryptic stories. Photos of designer gifts, expensive shoes, the occasional shot of Adam's hand on hers across a restaurant table. She fed the rumors, fanned the flames, and laughed at the chaos. She told herself she was winning, that she was finally being seen. But beneath the triumph, there was always a sliver of fear. What if Adam tired of her? What if Miranda fought back? What if the world saw through her game? She ignored those doubts, choosing instead to relish the attention. She flirted with reporters, dropped hints about truths she might reveal, even started fielding offers from reality TV producers. Fame, she thought, was the real prize. Sabrina Hale was ruthless, and for a brief moment, she truly believed she had won. She never imagined the pain she'd unleashed would come back for her. She never dreamed Miranda, quiet, gentle, perfect Miranda, could become her greatest threat. But every villain forgets that the victim always has a breaking point. The morning of the auction, Miranda Blackwell woke up to the sound of her own name. It wasn't her mother, or a friend, or even Adam calling out in the dark. It was the flat, rehearsed voice of a morning news anchor. Another twist in the Blackwell Nightgown scandal. Just hours remain before the infamous shared property goes to the highest bidder. She froze, blinking at the ceiling, her breath quick and shallow. There was no time to brace for what was coming. The world had already made up its mind about her. She turned on her phone. She shouldn't have, but she had to know. There it was, everywhere. Her name, her face, her humiliation dissected by strangers. Her social feeds were a battlefield of memes, jokes, and side-by-side images. Her in the white lily, radiant and reserved, and Sabrina in the same nightgown, wild-eyed and victorious. Spot the difference, one tweet read. You can't, because money can't buy what she lost. Others were crueler. Blackwell wife loses everything, including her dignity. If your man wants to share, maybe you need a new man. There were gifs of Miranda's most polished public moments, now re-edited as punchlines for the world's amusement. Even worse were the think pieces from so-called experts. Some psychoanalyzed Miranda's silence, claiming it was passive-aggressive control. Others blamed her for being too traditional, not exciting enough, or out of touch with reality. News panels debated whether the auction was female empowerment or public cruelty. Everyone was an armchair analyst, a judge, a comedian. No one was a friend. Miranda couldn't step outside without risking a wall of camera flashes. Paparazzi camped by her gate, hoping for a shot of her crying, breaking down, or, best of all, confronting Adam or Sabrina. Even the staff seemed jumpy, moving quickly through the house, trying not to meet her eyes. The final blow came when her mother called, her voice barely above a whisper. "Mi amor, please come home. Let's just disappear for a while. It's not worth it." But Miranda couldn't run. This was her life, her marriage, her name on the line. Later that day, Adam finally made his presence known, not in person, but in a bland, 3-sentence statement sent to the press. "We ask for privacy and understanding as we address this family matter. No further comments at this time." The Blackwell family. That was it. No apology, no defense of Miranda, not even a hint that the nightgown's auction was an outrage. Instead, he retreated to his office, fielded calls from nervous board members, and left Miranda to face the world alone. Rumors flew that Adam and Sabrina were hiding out at a penthouse across town. Some even said Adam planned to attend the auction's private viewing, arm in arm with the woman who started it all. The humiliation was relentless. Her inbox filled with unsolicited advice from strangers, some sympathetic, most smug. "You'll get through this. Leave him and take half. Next time, lock up your lingerie, honey." Even her friends in the social scene, women who once begged for her attention, ghosted her, or worse, sent hollow messages of support, just so they could later say, "I tried to reach out." Even in her own home, Miranda found no peace. The auction house sent a courier with paperwork for her to sign, as if she were just another participant in this circus. "We need you to confirm authenticity, Mrs. Blackwell," the courier said, not meeting her eyes. She signed, her hand shaking, her signature just another artifact in the museum of her downfall. The hours crawled by, each one a fresh slice of agony. She hid in her room, curtains drawn, listening as the staff moved around the house, whispering. She could feel their pity, their curiosity, their relief that it wasn't their name on the news. Finally, it was time. 7 p.m., prime time. The auction livestream began, the chat box already swarming with comments. Miranda watched alone, hugging a pillow, her phone vibrating non-stop. Her nightgown was front and center in a glass case, lit like a sacred relic. The auctioneer smiled at the camera, his voice bright and impersonal. Tonight's item, the Blackwell white lily nightgown, worn by both wife and mistress. History in the making. Bidding starts at $50,000. The bids rolled in, fast, furious, almost gleeful. Names and numbers flashed by, some real, some obviously fake. Celebrities, influencers, anonymous millionaires, it seemed like everyone wanted a piece of Miranda's pain. One bidder called themselves Shared Queen, another used Adam's initials. A third, Sabrina wins. The price shot up. $60,000, $75,000. Miranda watched, numb. It was a game to them, a novelty, a trophy. What hurt most wasn't the money, it was the laughter. The sick thrill of strangers bidding on her humiliation while she could do nothing but watch. She saw comments fly by. Who will wear it next? Put it in a museum of mistakes. Miranda, blink twice if you're okay. Her pain was now public property. Her heartbreak was entertainment. Miranda's hands shook as she texted her lawyer, asking if there was any way to stop the sale. His answer was cold comfort. You signed the release. It's out of your hands. For the first time in years, Miranda screamed, raw, primal, full of rage and grief. She smashed her phone against the dresser, then fell to her knees, sobbing. It wasn't just a nightgown, it was her last piece of dignity, stripped away and sold. In that moment, Miranda realized this was her lowest point. The world had watched her lose everything. They'd mocked, dissected, and auctioned her pain. But as she sat on the floor, shaking with fury and sorrow, something deep inside her changed. She wasn't just a victim anymore. She was a woman with nothing left to lose. And that, she thought, was the most dangerous thing she could ever be. Miranda Blackwell sat on the cold tile floor of her bathroom, her knees pulled to her chest, the sounds of her own sobbing echoing off the marble. She had locked herself away from the world, from the maids, from the reporters camped outside, from Adam's icy silence, and from the endless ping of her phone. She didn't even try to wipe the tears anymore. Crying was all she had left. Every muscle ached with exhaustion. Every breath felt like a battle. The bright vanity lights, once flattering, now made her look ghostly. Puffy eyes, mascara smudged, a silk robe draped over her shoulders, but she felt utterly exposed. The irony struck her. For years she'd worked so hard to present herself as untouchable. Now the world had seen her at her most vulnerable, had made a spectacle of her pain, a meme of her marriage, a mockery of her pride. She'd never felt smaller. Somewhere in the house, a clock chimed. The sound was so normal, so out of place with her inner chaos that it made her laugh, short and sharp, almost mad. She pressed her face into her knees and tried to disappear. Memories flickered through her mind, brighter, simpler times. Her mother baking cookies in a tiny kitchen, their laughter mixing with the scent of sugar. The day Adam proposed under a rainstorm, his promise of forever whispered into her hair. Her first night in the Blackwell mansion, nervous but hopeful, believing she'd finally made it, finally found a home where she belonged. Those memories felt like a different lifetime now. She replayed the last few days, searching for what she could have done differently. Should she have confronted Adam sooner? Should she have protected her privacy, never trusted anyone with her soft spots? Should she have stayed in her old life, clinging to her dreams instead of trading them for a fairy tale that turned to dust? No answer came, only grief. Her body shook with silent sobs. She let herself feel every ounce of shame, betrayal, fear. She saw herself through the world's eyes, pathetic, weak, a woman whose legacy could be reduced to a piece of silk in a glass case, sold to the highest bidder. She was angry at Adam, at Sabrina, at the auction house, at the media, but mostly she was angry at herself. For believing, for trusting, for thinking love could be enough. The rest of the house moved on without her. She heard voices from the hallway, the cook discussing menus, a maid quietly vacuuming, the distant thud of Adam's footsteps pacing in his office. Outside, the city pulsed, alive with gossip and judgment. But in here, time stopped. She let her head fall back against the wall, staring up at the ceiling, trying to remember how to breathe. Her phone, discarded and cracked from where she'd thrown it, buzzed and buzzed with new messages. Notifications from old friends, journalists, her lawyer, her mother, even strangers who'd found her number. Each buzz was a reminder of how public her humiliation had become. She closed her eyes, willing it all to stop. Hours passed. Day blurred into night. Hunger gnawed at her, but she didn't eat. The world expected her to shatter, and she was close. She thought of running, of buying a ticket to anywhere, changing her name, starting over. She thought of calling her mother and begging to come home. But then she'd picture her mother's kind, tired face, and she couldn't bear to add her sorrow to the pile. She was alone, so utterly, crushingly alone. The auction replayed in her mind, a looping nightmare. The giddy laughter of the auctioneer, the comments streaming across the screen, the sickening thrill of strangers owning her pain. She'd signed the release, desperate to make it all go away, not realizing it would only feed the fire. She hated herself for signing, for not fighting, for letting them sell her dignity. Every time she thought she'd cried her last tear, a fresh wave came, stronger than the last. At some point, she drifted into a shallow, fitful sleep on the bathroom floor, haunted by dreams of faceless crowds, glass cases, Adam's voice saying, "It's just a nightgown. It's just a marriage. Get over it, Miranda." When she woke, it was still dark. She dragged herself to her feet, splashed water on her face, stared at her reflection. The woman in the mirror looked broken, but there was a flicker, something raw and stubborn in her eyes. She realized she'd been holding her breath for days, maybe years, waiting for someone to rescue her, to apologize, to make things right. But there was no rescue coming. No one was going to save her. She wandered into her closet, the rows of designer dresses suddenly meaningless. She ran her hands over the empty spot where the white lily nightgown had once been. A fresh stab of grief, then a surge of cold anger. She sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the moonlit garden outside. For the first time, she let herself think about what came next. Not what the world wanted, not what Adam expected, but what she needed. She picked up her phone, ignoring the onslaught of new messages, and scrolled to Chris's number. Her old boss, the one person outside this circus who knew her worth. Her thumb hovered over the call button. She hesitated. Then, with trembling fingers, she dialed. "Chris," she whispered when he picked up, her voice barely recognizable. "I need help. I can't do this anymore." He was silent for a moment, then simply said, "You don't have to. Tell me what you need." In that tiny, fragile moment, Miranda felt something shift. She wasn't okay. Not yet. But she wasn't done either. She let the silence fill the space, her breath slowly calming, her tears finally stopping. For the first time since the scandal broke, Miranda let herself hope. Just a little. That maybe rock bottom wasn't the end. Maybe it was the place she'd finally start to climb. Miranda Blackwell was still trembling when she ended the call with Chris. Her old boss had always been a steady, rational force in her life, someone who believed in her talent and her grit back when she was just Miranda Soto, hustling in Brooklyn. He didn't offer pity or platitudes. "Tell me what you want to do," he'd said. For the first time since her humiliation went viral, someone was asking her what she wanted. She sat in silence, feeling the power of that question settle into her bones. The old Miranda, the one who had once battled for every scholarship, every job, every place at the table. She would not let her story end in shame. She would not be a punchline. Not for Adam, not for Sabrina, not for the bloodthirsty media. That morning, as the sun crept through the blackout curtains, Miranda started to act. She called Chris back, her voice steadier this time. "I want you to help me assemble a legal team," she said. "Not just any lawyers. I want people who know how to fight dirty. I want someone who will go after every loophole in Adam's contracts, every cent he ever tried to hide. And I want the best PR team in the city. I'm done hiding." Chris didn't ask questions. "I'll call you in an hour," he promised. By the time the sun was high, Miranda's living room had become a war room. Laptops open, calls on speaker, cups of untouched coffee lined up on the table. Her hands still shook, but adrenaline replaced the despair that had ruled her for days. She drafted a statement to the press, one that would air her side, not Adam's or Sabrina's. No more no comment, no more silence. The first call was to a powerful media strategist. "You don't know me," Miranda said, "but you know my name. I want to control the story from now on. I want you to bury the idea that I am a victim. I want the world to remember who I am and who they tried to erase." The strategist, a woman famous for her ruthless campaigns, laughed. "It's about damn time, Mrs. Blackwell. Let's show them what you're made of." Next, the lawyers. They pored over her marriage contract and found what Miranda herself had forgotten: a silent partner clause, buried in legalese, granting her shares in the Blackwell family trust if Adam was ever found guilty of public moral turpitude. In plain English, if he shamed the family name, Miranda could claim a huge chunk of his assets. The auction, the viral scandal, and Adam's blatant affair all counted. The lawyers grinned. "We've got him." Miranda's resolve hardened. The old Miranda would have accepted her fate, but the new Miranda saw a path to justice and revenge. She called the auction house. Her voice was ice cold. "This is Miranda Blackwell. I want to be listed as co-owner on the Nightgown. You will change the auction credits to include my name, or I'll sue for using my family property without proper consent. Also, prepare a press statement. I'm holding a conference at my home at 4 p.m., and make sure the media is there. All of them." The director stuttered, caught off guard. "But, Mrs. Blackwell." "No," she snapped. "No more but, Mrs. Blackwell. Do it, or I'll shut this place down and make sure you never see another socialite's donation again." Miranda hung up before he could reply. For the first time in days, she felt powerful. Not because she was fighting for a reputation, but because she was fighting for herself. The world expected her to cry, to vanish, to spiral into despair. Instead, she was about to step back into the spotlight and claim everything Adam and Sabrina thought they'd stolen. She called her stylist, demanding something bold, sharp, unmissable for the press conference. She'd never been a power suit woman, but today called for something different. She chose a crisp, white suit with tailored shoulders, her hair pulled back in a tight bun, a look that screamed, I am not your victim." As the hour approached, Miranda rehearsed her statement in front of the mirror. Voice calm, eyes clear. She heard the first vans roll up, media crews, paparazzi, some of the same reporters who'd mocked her 2 nights ago. She heard their eager voices outside her front door, waiting for a breakdown. She straightened her shoulders and walked downstairs. Her lawyer and Chris flanked her as she stepped outside. Flashbulbs burst. Questions flew. "Miranda, are you divorcing Adam? Is the mistress pregnant? Why are you selling your nightgown?" She held up a hand. Silence. "My name is Miranda Blackwell. I have stayed silent as my life, my marriage, and my family's legacy became public entertainment. No more. I am not for sale. My dignity, my story, my name, they are mine, and I will not let anyone, husband, mistress, or stranger, define them for me ever again." The auction you are all obsessed with? Every dollar raised tonight will go to women's legal aid and domestic violence charities. This is not about a piece of fabric. It's about survival. It's about reclaiming power from anyone who tries to take it. She let her words hang in the air, daring anyone to challenge her. Across social media, her statement was clipped, shared, and praised. Miranda Rises began to trend. Women from around the country, around the world, flooded her inbox with stories, with support, with gratitude. Back inside, Chris gave her a quiet nod. "You did it. You took your power back." But Miranda was just getting started. She'd reclaimed her story. Now it was time to make Adam and the entire world face the consequences. The old Miranda would never have believed it possible. But now, the secret weapon was herself. If Miranda Blackwell's breakdown had been a spectacle for the world to feast on, her comeback was about to be a masterclass. No longer was she content to hide behind closed doors, to let others define her worth or shape the narrative. The power suit, the steely gaze, the fiery press conference, these were only the beginning. Now, Miranda would reclaim not just her dignity, but her destiny. The morning after her public statement, Miranda rose before dawn. Sleep had been fitful, but adrenaline coursed through her. For the first time in days, she felt alive. She slipped from bed and let the hot water of the shower wash away the last traces of yesterday's tears. She stared at herself in the mirror. No makeup, no armor. The woman who gazed back was battered, yes, but unbroken. She brushed her hair back, running her fingers over her jaw. Her skin was still luminous, her eyes clear. There was determination there, an almost dangerous spark. "You are not done," she whispered to herself, "not even close." Her phone buzzed. Chris had sent a message. "The PR team is in place, your schedule's full, the world's waiting for you, Miranda." Miranda smiled, the smallest trace of a smirk tugging at her lips. The world that had so recently laughed at her, picked her apart, and bid on her humiliation was now watching for her next move. The transformation wasn't just about clothes or headlines. It was about Miranda rediscovering the pieces of herself she'd long buried. The college girl who had painted murals on her dorm wall. The scrappy intern who'd stood up to a boardroom full of suits. The daughter who comforted her mother with stories of a better life. She thought about her mother's voice. Never let them make you feel small. So Miranda stopped making herself small. She stood tall. Her stylist arrived, arms full of options. Miranda tried on gowns, suits, even simple blouses. They settled on a crimson dress, bold, powerful, impossible to ignore. She let her hair fall in loose waves, framing her face with softness but strength. The makeup was dramatic but not theatrical. A hint of gold on her lids, a fierce red on her lips. She looked finally like a woman who had nothing left to lose and everything to gain. By late morning, her home was a hive of activity. The best photographers and journalists, the same ones who had twisted her suffering into spectacle, were now clamoring for interviews. Her new media team briefed her on talking points, advised her how to field invasive questions, and prepared her for the inevitable onslaught of redemption arc headlines. Miranda was ready for it. She wanted them to see not just the pain she'd survived, but the strength she'd reclaimed. When she sat down for her first interview, she did not let the journalist guide the narrative. "Everyone wants to know about the nightgown," the reporter began. Miranda held her gaze. It was never about the nightgown. It was about how quickly the world will turn a woman's vulnerability into a circus. "I'm done letting anyone auction off my pain." She spoke about her roots, her immigrant parents, her Brooklyn childhood, her journey through loss and love. She spoke about shame and silence, and what it felt like to have her heartbreak sold to the highest bidder. But she also spoke of her future. "I am more than a headline," she said. "I am more than what happened to me. I am what I do next." The public response was instant and electric. Miranda Comeback began trending by noon. Women posted videos of themselves wearing their own nightgowns, sharing stories of betrayal, humiliation, and resilience. Celebrities reached out with offers to collaborate on projects about women's strength. A national talk show invited Miranda to appear live. She accepted, walking onto the set in her crimson dress, her stride sure, her head held high. She spoke directly to the millions watching from their living rooms. "Whatever you have been through, whatever they tried to take from you, you can always choose what you become next. You are not broken, you are becoming." Even her critics couldn't deny her power. The narrative shifted. Where once Miranda was the helpless, humiliated wife, she was now the face of survival. Magazine covers changed from "Blackwell Wife in Crisis" to "Miranda Blackwell, Rewriting Her Story." Brands began to reach out, offering her partnerships and ambassador roles. Charities wanted her name on their boards. Young women emailed her by the thousands, thanking her for standing up, not just for herself, but for all the women who had been told to stay quiet, stay pretty, stay small. But Miranda's transformation wasn't just for the cameras. She took meetings with her legal team and strategists, planning every step with a cool, measured precision. She used her silent partner clause to freeze Adam's accounts and begin divorce proceedings. She moved her investments out of joint accounts and into funds supporting single mothers and women's shelters. She poured her auction proceeds into a foundation for women who'd lost everything to public shame. Behind the scenes, Adam and Sabrina were losing their grip. Tabloids shifted their focus. Now Adam was the joke, his face photoshopped onto memes of men who thought they could win. Sabrina, once the toast of the scandal, found herself abandoned by sponsors and shunned by the very socialites who'd once whispered in her ear. Miranda didn't bother gloating. She was too busy building something new. That evening, Miranda hosted a dinner at her home for women who had survived their own scandals. They ate, they laughed, they told stories not of shame, but of comeback. Miranda listened, her heart fuller than it had been in years. As the night drew to a close, she looked around the room, a room once full of whispers, now ringing with hope, and felt a peace settle over her. Her transformation was not about beauty, or fashion, or even revenge. It was about reclaiming her life, her story, her choices, her voice, and the world, for the first time, was ready to listen. The day of the auction's finale arrived, but this time the world was watching for a new reason. It wasn't just about scandal anymore. It was about whether Miranda Blackwell, once mocked, now adored, would finish what she started. Social media feeds counted down to the event like it was the Oscars. Live-stream links spread everywhere. In penthouses and dive bars, across dorm rooms and in the break rooms of hospitals, people waited to see what would happen next. Miranda knew the world was watching, and she wasn't about to disappoint. At precisely 7 p.m., the grand foyer of the Blackwell estate became the setting for a moment that would be replayed for years. Instead of hiding, Miranda took control. She walked out before the cameras in a sleek, electric blue dress, bold, modern, and unmistakably her. Every inch of her body language declared, "I am not a victim. I am not here for your pity. I am here for justice." The house was filled with journalists, auction house executives, representatives from women's charities, and dozens of high society gawkers who had once turned their backs on her. Her legal team stood by the staircase, arms crossed, faces calm and fierce. Chris, her old boss and new business partner, stood just behind her, his pride in her obvious. Adam and Sabrina stood together near the back of the room, trying to blend into the wallpaper. He, in a suit that suddenly looked too tight, she with her signature smirk wavering. On a stage at the front, the infamous white lily nightgown sat in its glass case, lit by soft spotlights. The auctioneer, nervous now, welcomed everyone. "Tonight we auction not only a piece of history, but a piece of survival." The audience quieted, breath held. But before the bidding could start, Miranda stepped forward and took the microphone. Her voice rang out, clear, unshaken, carried on the live stream to millions. "Before we begin, I want to say something," Miranda said, locking eyes with Adam and Sabrina, then turning to the cameras. "For days, I was ridiculed. My pain was entertainment. My dignity became a joke for the highest bidder. But tonight, I take it all back. This is not the story of a woman betrayed. This is the story of what happens when you try to sell a woman's worth and she refuses to be priced." She turned toward the nightgown, then to the auctioneer. "The winning bid tonight goes to a foundation that will provide legal aid, education, and emergency support to women who have been shamed, humiliated, or abused by those who claim to love them. The white lily will never be a trophy for anyone's collection. From this moment, it stands as a symbol that you cannot auction a woman's spirit. Not mine, not anyone's." A beat of stunned silence, then an eruption of applause. The online chat filled with hearts, clapping emojis, and #Miranda owns it. For the first time, the story belonged to her. Bidding began, but it wasn't like before. Anonymous strangers no longer tried to buy a piece of Miranda's humiliation. Instead, philanthropists and women's advocates outbid each other for a cause, not a scandal. The numbers climbed: $100,000, $150,000, $250,000. The auctioneer struggled to keep up. Adam shifted uncomfortably. Sabrina, for the first time, looked lost. Their victory had become a footnote in someone else's redemption. Then came the twist. As the bidding reached its peak, Miranda raised her own paddle. The cameras spun toward her, shocked gasps in the crowd. "I'm placing the final bid," Miranda declared. "I'm buying back what was always mine." Her bid blew past the last offer, $500,000. The room exploded. The auctioneer stammered, "Sold to Miranda Blackwell for the Miranda Foundation for Women's Justice." The symbolism was clear to all. Miranda had taken control, bought back her own narrative, and turned the entire farce into fuel for real, lasting change. With the crowd still buzzing, Miranda invited the head of the foundation to the stage. Together they signed the donation check live. Flashbulbs burst. Journalists jostled for quotes, but Miranda ignored them, walking straight up to Adam and Sabrina. She looked them both in the eyes, calm and almost kind. "You taught me more than you know," she said quietly. "But you don't get to define me, or any woman, ever again." Adam tried to mumble an apology, but Miranda stopped him with a raised hand. "Save it. I hope you learn how to respect women, even if it's too late for us. As for you, Sabrina, enjoy your 15 minutes. They're over now." Sabrina's cheeks flushed crimson. Adam looked as if he wanted to disappear. They left quietly, ignored by the same people who once hung on their every word. Miranda turned back to the cameras. She stood tall, the picture of composure, surrounded by women she'd inspired, her mother's proud face shining in the crowd. "No one owns your story but you," she said into the microphone. "Not your husband, not your haters, not the world. If they try to sell your pain, buy it back, and use it to build something beautiful." The online world exploded in support. The white lily was placed in a museum exhibit, not as a trophy, but as a symbol of survival and power. The Miranda Foundation's website crashed from too many donations. News anchors, influencers, and regular people alike hailed her as a role model. As the guests left, many stopped to thank her, some with tears in their eyes. The mansion that once felt like a gilded prison now felt like a launch pad, Miranda's new empire, built on the ashes of public shame. Miranda stood by the window, looking out at the city lights, feeling the old pain fading. She was no longer the woman betrayed. She was the woman reborn. When the last camera shut off, the last guests departed, and the lights in the Blackwell Estate's grand foyer finally dimmed, Miranda Blackwell stood alone in the hush of her home. For the first time in what felt like years, the silence was peaceful, not suffocating. She walked through the marble halls, her heels echoing, no longer in fear, but with purpose. The air was different now. It no longer whispered judgment or shame. It buzzed with hope and with the possibility of what came next. Upstairs, Miranda slipped off her shoes, stepped into her bedroom, and stood before the window, watching the city's lights twinkle against the night. She let herself breathe deeply for the first time since her world had exploded. The auction, the scandal, the betrayal, they were no longer weights on her shoulders but fuel beneath her wings. She felt tall, alive, radiant. The quiet confidence that had drawn Adam to her years ago had returned, but now it was forged in fire, tempered by loss and rebirth. Her phone, once a weapon of her humiliation, now pulsed with new life. Messages poured in from around the world. Women, old, young, rich, struggling, shared their stories, thanked her for her bravery, told her that her fight had given them permission to believe in their own comeback. Some messaged in tears, others with laughter, some simply with a single word: "Thank you." Celebrities tweeted their support. News outlets called her the face of a new era of women's dignity and strength. Donations flooded into the Miranda Foundation for Women's Justice, more than she could have imagined. But the message that moved her most came from a girl named Sophia in Detroit. "I saw you on the news. I used to think I'd never be strong enough to leave my bad situation, but you helped me see I deserve better. I'm going to start again. Thank you for showing me that even when you lose everything, you can still come back stronger." Miranda replied, hand trembling, "You are already strong, Sophia. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. The world will try to tell you what you're worth. Only you decide." She sat on the edge of her bed, remembering the Miranda of just weeks ago, the woman who thought she needed a husband, a home, a perfect reputation to feel safe. That Miranda had been hurt, humiliated, nearly destroyed. But she'd chosen to fight, not just for herself, but for all the women who'd ever been told to sit down and be quiet. In the days that followed, Miranda's life shifted quickly. The foundation opened offices, staffed by women who'd survived scandals and heartbreaks of their own. The white lily nightgown went on display at a local museum, the story beside it rewritten not as a tale of shame, but of survival and victory. Miranda spoke on stages and podcasts, wrote op-eds about dignity, strength, and the lies women are taught about weakness. She divorced Adam, cleanly and without drama, her lawyers ensuring he could never claim a dime of her new legacy. Sabrina faded from the headlines, her 15 minutes over. Even the most vicious tabloids had to admit, Miranda Blackwell was not a victim, nor a villain. She was a pioneer. One afternoon, standing in the foundation's sunlit office, Miranda looked around at the women building a new future with her. She saw resilience in their eyes, the same fire that now lived in her own. A younger volunteer approached, shy and hopeful. "Miss Blackwell," she said, "do you really think women can have it all, after everything?" Miranda smiled, warmth radiating from her. "Not all at once, maybe, but you can have what matters: self-respect, freedom, community, and your own voice. Don't let anyone tell you you're too much or not enough. Don't wait for permission. Take up space. Write your own ending." That night, the city sparkled with possibility. Miranda walked through Central Park, head high, moonlight kissing her skin. People recognized her. Some nodded respectfully, some offered thanks, some just smiled, inspired by her courage. Miranda greeted them all, not as a celebrity, but as a sister, an ally, a friend. Her life was different now. She went back to painting, filling her apartment with new colors, new dreams. She took cooking classes with her mother, rebuilt old friendships she'd once set aside for Adam's world. She laughed easily, slept soundly, and never again apologized for taking up space. But the greatest reward came in moments of quiet, when she remembered all she'd overcome. No amount of public shame, betrayal, or loss could define her. She was Miranda Blackwell. Brave, bold, imperfect, real. She had reclaimed her story, and in doing so had given other women permission to do the same. As she lay down that night, wrapped in a new silk nightgown, Miranda whispered to herself, "This is mine, my story, my life. No one can auction it off again." The camera pulls back, a city humming with hope, the Miranda Foundation sign glowing on a busy street, and the world a little softer, a little stronger, because one woman refused to let her tragedy be the end. To every woman listening, Miranda's story sent a message that echoed far beyond the mansion gates. You are not what happens to you. You are what you choose next. Your voice is your power. Your comeback starts now. And so, the girl from Brooklyn who once believed she had to stay small became a beacon for millions, a living reminder that no one, not a husband, not a mistress, not a world hungry for drama, could ever write her ending for her. So the story has ended, and our wonderful friends, are you still here until now? If you are, I know something in Miranda's journey must have touched your heart in some way. And if that's true, then maybe this is the message you need right now. No matter what is taken from you, no matter how public your pain or how deep your loss, you are never just what happened to you. You are what you choose to become next. In a world so quick to judge and so eager to turn pain into a spectacle, it takes real courage to reclaim your story and build something beautiful from the ashes. Like the heterodox saying, the wound is the place where the light enters you. Sometimes it's in our lowest, rawest moments that we find our true strength and the power to rise, not as a victim, but as the author of our own life. If Miranda's comeback inspired you, or if you know someone who needs to hear this, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Comment below. What part of Miranda's story spoke to you the most? Let's remind each other that no one, not betrayal, not scandal, not the world, can auction off your worth. Your comeback starts right here, right now, with you.